Oh my goodness. Look at that. It may not be Tuesday, but damn, we are on time. This is 9 o'clock start.
We're just a day late, but we're on time a day late.
This is definitely daylight savings right here, or calendar savings. I don't
look with most people in quarantine. What are days?
What are days?
Really?
Is it?
It's today. We decided we're going to record today at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what day it is half the time anyway. My work Outlook calendar just tells me what call I have, and then I make that call.
Right. I think I heard someone make a comment once that the only way people should track time now is yesterday, today, and tomorrow. and that's what matters to them. So anyway, hey, thanks for tuning into Bad Publicity.
Thank you for joining us for our special on-time Bad Publicity edition. And today we have a fun topic. We hope we'll get lots of good discussion. We're going to hit you with our top 5 personally, right? Not the top 5. This is going to be my top 5 and Corey's top 5, and hopefully if you look in the comments below, you'll see other people's top 5s, or if you check out the comments that hopefully flow, maybe other people will throw their stuff in as we go along. But this is the top 5 as we see it, game impacting obligations. Not the best obligation to have, not the worst obligation to have, and not the flip to alter ego, discard and let it go, right? This is we're talking about in a situation where this obligation triggers, what is the worst impacting obligation, and that will be number 1.
Which has the biggest feels bad moments. I'm a big fan of the feels bad.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah.
Would that get us sued? Is that trademarked now?
Just keep moving. Yeah. Anyway, so hey, obligation. What's an obligation?
Yeah.
Those who play Marvel Champions are most likely familiar with it, but just to kind of reiterate and go over what this card is.
An obligation is something you have to do. Right now, you have to, wash your hands, stay inside, stay locked down. You are obligated. Do not leave your house for any reason. Get your click and collects, get your Amazon delivered, make sure you're
click and collect.
Click and collect. Isn't that like the grocery? You just order online, you click, and then you drive up to the thing, and they throw it in your car, and then you drive off. You just click it and collect it, man.
I don't think I've ever heard it referred to as click and collect. I think they go curbside or something like that. It doesn't sound as cool, but it's fine. It's fine.
You know what's great about this show is the diversity of one Canadian, one American, and we come together and we talk gaming.
That's it.
And right now,
brings us together.
You're probably clicking on to the next video.
Anyway, so another thing to add to obligations, it's important to note every hero has one. So it's a card mechanic that it's unique to every hero, and it's different for every hero.
Just like opinions.
So, that's right. And so currently we have 9 heroes. Am I correct? I think so. I think it's 9.
Well, some people have more than others.
True.
At this moment in time, there is a discrepancy.
Spoiled. Yeah. 9 spoiled and available to access if you so wish. Obligations you can look into. So that's and it's each different for every character, and hopefully we're gonna get obviously you'll get one with every new hero and stuff that comes out. So it's something that's just a part of the hero you pick and you play with.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that some heroes are more obligated than others.
Yeah.
Michael and Caleb, if you're listening, we'll do our wish lists and stuff in a different episode. But man, if some heroes could be obligated to 2 different things, right? You never know.
It's true. It's definitely an area that has a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
A lot of things they can add and do with the obligation cards. that could get really cool and real creative, and I hope they move in that direction. Like some of your starter ones are just kind of basic, and a big thing is that obligations are those cards that, like, when you see it, you flip it off the treachery deck, and when it reveals, you just hope
it's not yours.
It's not yours, and if it is yours, that your hero is not tapped or exhausted, so they can get rid of it, remove it out of the game. And that's the big thing. So it's because everyone tries to prepare and be ready, but it can always come and sideswipe you at like the worst moment. And then it has, and kind of what our topic is then when that happens and you're not ready for it, what does this do to your board state, to the game?
All right. I think you've worked it up enough. Most people that probably know what obligation is, if you've made it this far into the video, if you've clicked here, you're ready. So, so in true bad publicity fashion, one of us has broken the rules and made a sixth and has an honorable mention. So
I did an honorable mention. Yeah.
So now's the time to go get your like hot cocoa or whatever you're drinking before we get into the list. And Corey, you want to hit us with your honorable mention before we start into this?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that we did our two lists independent of each other. So my list is going to be different than his, and mine's already different because I did an honorable mention on mine because I wasn't sure if we were going to do one collectively. And I know you're probably going to lose your mind when I tell you my honorable mention, because deep down in my heart, I feel like it should be higher. But every time I did one of these other ones, I felt like that they always felt worse. But my honorable mention was legal work from She-Hulk.
No, I lost my mind. Oh.
I know. It sucks because it's persistent, but I do think it's a very terrible obligation because it puts a persistent effect that lasts for the entirety of the game. The big reason why I didn't put it higher is because she doesn't get played that much at all in our group unless it's me playing her. And
you always prepared for it?
And I'm always ready for it. That's right. Man. I've never been hit by the obligation as long as I've played She-Hulk.
Honorable mention.
That's my honorable mention. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, you're crazy, it's so low.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. We'll see what Jameson's opinion is on legal work.
I was shocked.
If it even makes his list.
I have to say, though, let's get this out the way, that before we went live, we kind of double compared each other's lists because I had to make all the little pretty cards and stuff like that appear on your screen. I had to pre-program all our effects because of the budgeting we have, and our normal effects guy's not here working off because we're social distancing. Right? So I'm pressing the buttons myself.
Yeah, and he ridiculed me really hard for it. It's really what he's getting to.
Oh my God, I think I went white. The color's just coming back in my face. But Corey, why don't you then let's start off the list right.
Okay.
Your number 5 most impactful game obligation.
All right, my number 5 most impactful game obligation is Home by Dawn, Miss Marvel. So Home by Dawn, when it's revealed, when it shows up, it has a whole flipped alter ego, exhaust, remove it. All obligations typically have that effect. There is an exception. We may cover it. But if you're not prepared for it, you have to have it resolve. You have to discard one persona support you control, and if no persona support was discarded, you surge, and then you discard the obligation. And I feel like from the limited time I had Miss Marvel, watch out.
Control board.
Sparks. To the time Jameson's been playing a lot of Miss Marvel, losing a persona sucks. And there's also situations where, like, if you have like a Bruno where you just been piling cards underneath them, and then this comes up and just wipes out your Bruno with all these cards you've been banking for like your power turns coming up, that is a humongous tempo swing. And it can hurt her. Like, all of her personas are good. There's some that you don't necessarily need to have but are helpful. But there are some that when you get them up and running, losing them stalls you out a decent amount. And so I felt like that was a pretty impactful obligation to have Flippin' come up.
Yeah, this was a really good pick. And I don't know if when I'm building my personal list, I guess I can say so. This was my close. This is
honorable mention.
Yeah.
It's cool, man.
No. This is the one that I was struggling with for that number 5 spot. I'll talk about a little bit why when I let you know mine, but I mean, I think this is a great pick to actually make the list. If you do get hit with one of these at the right time when you're losing that persona, yeah, it can be devastating. I can tell you the reason it didn't make my list is because there's been times when I haven't been able to get a persona out on the table and I've had to play around that. So sometimes when this comes up, it just hasn't had that impact for me, but I can see definitely from your point of view how it could. And also from that perspective, I think it's just like maybe your legal work is I play so much
Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I was going to say Kamala. I play so much Kamala Khan that I think I'm ready. You know, like I'm mentally prepared that I'm like, my obligation has to come up sometime. Haven't seen it in a bit. Boom.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is.
My other point on this too is I feel like that the way Miss Marvel plays, she's exhausted a lot because she always exhausts during her turn to recycle the card. So she's also more likely to have to suffer the negative effects of the card. She's less likely to be able to flip, exhaust, and get rid of it.
You are 100% right, sir. You want to be triggering her ability constantly, as much as possible, setting up those combos. So being in that readied state, probably not going to happen, and probably you're looking at a hit to the table. And if it does hit, if it hits at the right time, if you lose that early game persona, that's helping you get your tableau set up. If you're losing a Bruno, which is your mother load when you're trying to set up for the big combo, that's game impacting.
Yeah.
So transitioning there is like I said, from my perspective, I was like, there's times when I can't get that persona out on the table, so I can work around it. Or something has happened like this, and I've been able to, mitigate that loss. Or having the ability to have 2 personas, and you are being told discard 1 persona. So I can choose because of the timing. If I'm already set up, boom, my setup persona
goes away.
Jig's gone, and I have my Bruno still there. I mean, you're trying to get those personas out on the table quickly, but if you hit this early game, it can be devastating. Where I went with my number 5 pick and I wrestled is Burn Notice. So the Black Widow hero revolves very heavily around these preparation cards. Here, you lose a little more control about what card you have to get rid of because it's saying the higher cost card. Now, the reason this is number 5 is because even though I'm telling you that the mechanic is so embedded into Black Widow, is that most of these persona cards are out and you have to discard to use it. So you're not really sitting with turn after turn after turn after turn of having a preparation card on the table. You're not leaving or having a preparation card that's like, avoid the damage, and you get hit with like 2 damage and you're like, oh, I better hold out next time for that 3 or 4 damage instead. I'm gonna, right? You want to get it to your discard pile because you know how this game works now, or my play style is I'm not afraid to cycle my hero deck quickly and get my discarded cards back into a deck and start playing them again. Now, this, though, I feel like it can speed bump you because you're playing the turn to, you're committing the resources to it, you're putting it on the table, you're hoping for those effects because you're planning for it, whether you're building up to take damage or, lose, take the next treachery or something. You've communicated with your team, and then this hits, and you're pretty much then burning one off, and you're burning the highest costing one off, which, like I said, it's it's a little more out of your control. So from a mechanic perspective, I feel like this is the card that could really speed bump you and mostly impact your gameplay and style at that time that it's going to hit.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to this, one, I really want to play some Black Widow. I know we got really hyped about her when we talked about her in our discussion episode, but the reason why this didn't make my list, and again, I haven't played with her yet. Most people haven't, aside from other means like that, was that you do get to choose the card, and a lot of her stuff, like her base cards are all level 1 aside from grappling hook, which is her only level 2, and all of her 2-cost preparations are all suited, so they're like strength, leadership, justice, etc., aggression, yeah, and so those are the ones that have the 2-cost, and you get to choose, and I think the you get to choose option made it where, yes, the card sucks and the card speed bumps you, but I think it gave you enough flexibility that I was like, this is bad, but it wasn't my top 5 bad.
No, well said.
Now, granted, again, I will say I haven't played with her yet. I'm excited to. I really want to. And once I get some games in with her, I may get hit with this card a few times and I'll just be like, son of a... Yeah, totally. This card sucks.
Yeah, and the way that she plays, I can see that perspective, Corey. You are... If you have 2 or 3 of these preparation cards on the table, I mean... most of them are 1 cost, 2 costs. So saying, discard the highest one, there could be times when you're going to have like 2 1s out and you're choosing between those 2 1s, right? So,
right.
I mean, you will have that flexibility, but I thought because this mechanic was so entrenched in Black Widow, having to get rid of a preparation card was a little more game impacting than losing that persona.
Yeah. And I mean, there could be the moments too where like you only have one, right?
Yeah.
And you're using it for triggering your ability and stuff on the next turn. So it does matter. It can definitely come up and hurt you.
Yeah. All right. Let's
number 4.
Yeah. Number 4.
Whoa. I think. Yeah, I think that technique's trademarked. So we're gonna get like a die's gonna roll in and give us a cease and desist order. It's all right.
All right, your number 4 is what?
My number 4 is Odin's Avenger Thor, which I believe is also your number.
Yeah, there we go. We have shared 4 connection.
That's right. We have an overlap.
Wonder
so I'll describe
activate.
I'll describe the card, and then you can explain why it sucks. So Odin's Avenger, if you're unaware, if you've not been hit by it yet, congratulations. But when you do, if you're not able to exhaust Odinson, you have to discard Jolnir, the hammer, from your hand or from play. Then you're stunned, and then you discard the obligation. What's very important to Thor?
Thor cannot operate without his hammer. Period. There's a reason why Odinson is just so blah on the back, and all you're doing is flipping there, finding that hammer, getting that hammer, and then having to flip back to play it again, right? Like, Captain America can play without his shield. He can do it. Trust me on that one, right?
It's true.
Been there, done that, right? It sucks, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously you're looking for this because I mean, it does all that cool stuff, blah 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 blah. But the shield, but the hammer, Thor needs it, man. You're already handicapped enough all over the place with Thor, with the hand size and the kind of blasé, useless, alter ego ability other than go and fetch your hammer, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's useless, but I mean, like, if you already have your hammer, flipping back ain't doing you no love.
Yeah, he just Thor needs to punch his stuff in the face.
Yeah. So discarding from your hand, or play. I mean, that sucks. You didn't even get a chance to play it, and this card's taking it from
your hand. Yeah,
from your hand. it's stunning you, and and then you can discard it. Now, Corey, like, how many turns is this hitting you for? Right? Like, this isn't. So
best case scenario, you could recover all in one turn, but Thor has a small hand size. So there's a lot of times where this is going to stall you out potentially 2 turns, because you have to spend 1 turn fetching your hammer, replaying your hammer. Then you have to clear stun by wasting an attack of some sort. So it can be obnoxious. Like, best case, it just time walks you effectively. Like, you just lose your whole next turn as you're just trying to reset up and just get playable again. But it can, if you have like a bad hand or you stumble a bit with what you have, it can mess you up and make you eat up about 2 turns of like solid play until you're able to kind of get back up into fluid motion.
Yeah, definitely, right. You're talking, best case scenarios and stuff there. Having to then, like you said, poor hand size, then having to go back, spend a turn to get your hammer, because like we said, Thor can't do squat without his hammer, really. All of those good cards that you're saving up to hammer combo, useless. Right? So you get your hammer, you then, flip over, now you're, I'm the mighty Thor again, but guess what? I'm stunned. Right. So now whatever happens, I'm fizzling an attack or whatever to get out of something. So the speed bumps and the hit to tempo, the tempo hit of this card, if it hits you, is such a kick in the face.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. And that's why we both picked it as number 4.
So yeah, definitely. Number 4.
Cool. So we'll move on. My number 3. So my number 3 was Family Emergency Captain Marvel. I play a lot of Captain Marvel. And a big reason why I chose Family Emergency is it stuns you. And we already discussed being stunned is one of the worst effects that have happened to you, because it just wastes, especially if you have a lot of good action triggers. But also it makes this card suck, is it not only stuns you, it then surges. So you're getting hit with a stun, and then you're still resolving another. It's not, replacing a treachery card. It's then putting another treachery card in its place after it stuns you as Captain Marvel. So again, we would probably use to say this a lot, but tempo hit is really important in this game, especially when you have those really tight turns where you're watching the clock kind of tick by with the threat building up on the scenario. Those stalls really can really hurt you, especially in the harder scenarios where it's real tense and real tight. You need to kind of stay productive each action, and getting hit by an obligation already sucks. But sometimes it's like, hey man, that's your problem, you deal with it, but thanks for eating my treachery card for you. This person who flips the treachery card deals something bad to you if you're Captain Marvel, and then they still have to pull a treachery card in its place. So that's why I picked that as my number 3.
Yeah, and I think, Corey, the way you've built your list, I think is really cool, because it differs from mine, and I think that's why I love to have these conversations with people about the game, just talking about the mechanics, talking about when we look at in a vacuum this mechanic of obligation to another hero's obligation, to how it affects different states. Both of you and me have different play groups, so the people that come to the table and the heroes they come, different perspectives. I love the way that this theme that you're picking. Most of these obligations so far do something that is almost like that double whammy. It's like, here it is, and you're stunned.
Yeah.
Right? And
no, I agree.
So I think it's really cool. And I didn't really, from my perspective, take that all into account when I was building, my list out. But I think it's awesome talking points from this. Nothing is worse at certain moments when you get that surge effect in this game, because it's that extra layer of something else I have to deal with.
Right.
Oh, I may be able to deal with that first card, but
the next one sucks.
GD, now I got another surge.
Yeah.
Really?
The worst feeling is when the treachery deck takes more actions than you anticipate. So everyone hates it. Like, everyone hates when the treachery deck is like, here's something bad, and let's pull it again. And you're like, stop, treachery. I've had enough. Stop. I can't take anymore.
And it's really interesting from that perspective that this card really, core set card,
Yeah.
And
it is core set.
And it's really nothing. It's really nothing special. Like, it doesn't do anything to affect her abilities. It doesn't do anything to affect what makes Captain
Marvel sick. Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. It like whatever is Captain Marvel. It doesn't affect the energy. It doesn't, like, you'd think that if you look at the templating and how this game built, it'd be like, burn an energy resource from your hand or discard because she works so much around that energy resource. You think. I would have guessed that it's something there, but it's just something that's really so simplistic and basic, but so detrimental if it hits you. You're stunned, and this card is surging, right? Like,
yeah, agree. Absolutely agree.
Two huge hits to tempo. Great pick.
Thanks. And your number 3.
My number 3 again. So I took it from a different perspective. I went with physical toll, right? And so this is one that during our Doctor Strange episode, I lost my whatever bananas over, right? Like, so physical toll, for those people that can't see the card, that you're watching this while you're supposed to be doing work and it's minimized in the screen, I'll read it to you.
Congratulations. keep it up.
So you give it to the Stephen Strange player. So you may flip to alter ego form. You choose, obviously, exhaust Stephen Strange, remove physical toll from the game. Hey, congratulations. But if you cannot do that, right, this says the next event you play costs 3 additional resources. Discard the obligation after you play an event. That's crazy. Like we're talking about a game where resources in our hand are already so hard to come by, and you don't know how many times somebody bums my helicarrier from me. Like, are you going to use that extra resource? Oh, you got a mansion out? Do you need that extra?
Hey man, hey, you got an extra helicarrier?
Got any more of those resources? Right? But like, from that perspective, right? Like, costing 3, I'm like, damn, man. I'm like his whole play is supposed to be about playing from this separate special event pile, and now for me to get or to trigger this stuff, I gotta pay 3 additional. Like, the tempo hit there is, I think it's absolutely bananas for somebody that is going to be event driven, and I just think that this is going to be detrimental, and the fact that discard this obligation even after you play an event, so it's not like the next card you play this turn, or the next, like, this is going to sit there
until you play the event to get rid of it.
Until you play the event to get rid of it. Until you.
That's what I was going to bring up. It tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It waits around and to make sure that you're paying the tax. This is an interesting pick. This is one I thought about. And this is something that I think get reps with Doctor Strange to see if you can come up with a moment where you have like kind of like a dud event that you can afford to just like eat it up, because it does prevent you on like your bigger power swing turns, and you just can't do them because it makes them cost like 6 resources, and you just can't afford it. Everyone has to pile in to give you savings, and wherever you have a chance at doing it, but then you're eating up like other people's actions or dumping your entire hand to play one card when you're hopefully going to interact with more, and then some of his stuff wants to buddy off of other things you do, so he kind of wants to combo a bit on his turn, and this can like stop you from doing that.
100%.
Yeah.
This is going to force you to make very, very hard choices, right? Because like I said, you're keeping this in play until you meet its requirement. Now that might force you. You may be set up. You're like, okay, guys, I got this under control. Next round, I'm going to play this. We're going to knock out, this villain. We're going to make it to the next stage. I've got the power card to do it. I've just drawn it up. Hallelujah. You get this. Now you can't play that power card. You're forcing to make that choice. You're like, listen, no matter how long I hold this for, we can't get the resources to play it. I'm going to have to use my power card, to actually pay as a resource for this lower shitty card that ain't going to do nothing, that just going to ping off damage off this minion here. And from that perspective, now just so I can clear this, I'm forced to make a bad decision and throw the game winning or the stage clearing card away just to pay this.
Yeah, I would say I also can see you in a situation where you're banking a card and you're using your other stuff to play as you're trying to build your hand, and then this card hits, and the only way you can pay for something that turn is by pitching everything, even if it's the card you didn't want to play, you wanted to save. So then you have to think about, I really want this card in my hand. Do I pitch it so I can pay for this event to get rid of the obligation tax? Or do I just let this thing sit with me another turn and I just dirtle and do other stuff? So it does create some really interesting decision making that you have to analyze and go with. So yeah, I think that was a good choice. I did, it's not shown up on my list so far.
Right.
But
right,
I think it was a good choice.
Think about this, right? Like inside Stephen Strange, you have a hand size of 6.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange has a hand size of 5, right? So even some of these like when you're thinking about it, a zero cost event is now costing you the card, like the event card itself as a slot in your hand, and then 3.
Yeah.
So,
which is most times at least 2 cards most of the time. Unless you have a reduction and a 2 buff.
Right.
So unless you get really lucky and you have a way to reduce it. Most of the time it's going to eat up at least 2 cards to play a 0. To play a 0 effect.
Yep.
So you're burning 2 cards to get a mediocre reaction just to get the obligation away from you.
Where I can see how probably you might have to build Strange is using neutral cards. I don't really know the base cards that come into his thing. There's still some cards that we haven't seen yet. Maybe you may need some of those gray neutral cards that sit there and generate a resource for you, right?
To help you pay off the obligation tax.
Yeah. So
it's probably not a bad idea.
But then again, you're burning those, and you can't accumulate them up, right? Like if you're having that Captain Marvel style where that card, she's banking up the energy for that big payout, because we haven't seen all of Steven's full set yet. But yeah, this one here has really got me twisted up. Cool,
good choice. I like it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. You ready? Ready for number 2s? The doses? Coming in for my number 2, most impactful obligation, I chose eviction notice from Spider-Man. And I'll tell you why.
Tell me why, because I am interested, man.
Okay. So one,
I wonder
what
if
it
gains a surge.
So
let me just see.
Yeah. Well, okay. Hold on. You've caught my theme. So yeah, you exhaust Peter Parker if you can, remove eviction notice from the game. Cool, that's a standard, great. But then its effect, if it does hit you, is you discard 1 card at random from your hand, then the card surges, and then you discard the obligation. Three big points of why this card really sucks for Spider-Man.
Here we go.
Spider-Man usually wants to sit unexhausted. So even if it reveals and he flips to Peter Parker and exhausts to get rid of it, it puts him in a vulnerable state because he's now exhausted for being able to defend, protect, and do some of his other tricks for the rest of the round. So if this comes up early in the treachery phase, it can really make it weak for everyone else, just to how Spider-Man plays sometimes. 2, he typically tends to react a lot with what's going on with the board and the way he plays. Losing a card at random is really tense and scary, because it could rip the card you're really wanting to play or hold on to defend from something else going on out of your hand. It could be either the power attack you're going to swing next turn to take out the villain. It can be, your for greater good or something like that. You're ready for some like to try to stop some really insane event that might flip or some treachery card. There's just you don't know. You don't have any control over it, and that's what makes it like really scary because it's not like you can just pick and discard something. It's just a random card from your hand, and you have to reevaluate and see what goes on.
Yep.
And then 3, it surges.
Yeah.
And again, anytime an obligation does a bad thing to you and then replaces itself with a treachery card, it sucks.
Yep. So I am 100%, great pick, great points, Corey. I mean, I have a buddy that is totally, I guess, like, a webhead.
Gotcha.
You have choices in this game for the amount of heroes you can play, but this guy, Spider-Man is his homie.
I have a guy in my play group whose name is Peter, last name Park, and he plays Spider-Man all the time because he just feels like he has to.
Why would you play anything else?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we call this card the Spider-Man obligation. We call this the backflip remover because this guy always he camps on a backflip and every random card that he has to discard is backflip. And honestly, it is like it's heartbreaking to see him lose backflip time and time again when this hits. But like you said, Spider-Man is very, very versatile, very agile, can do anything, and that's the great part about the thematic of this Spider-Man build. But yeah, he's got those cards that if you want him on the attack, or he's setting up for some combo, he's holding that swinging web kick. When the chips are down and he's already taken a beating, he's holding that backflip. Spider trackers, web shooters, to be able to pull off those.
And then looking at your builds, like if you go Justice, right, you're sitting on all of like the treachery and scheme negation type stuff, and those things are important because you're trying to save them for stuff that matters. And then if your whole idea is like, don't worry guys, we're fine in the treachery phase, I've got like a for greater good, I'll get rid of it, and then Eviction Notice flips first, rips the for greater good out of your hand, or because you don't want to spend it on whatever, and you're just like, oh no.
You know how many times the conversations happen like this, right? Turn before, okay, I'm screwed, I'm gonna take a bunch of damage. My buddy's like, I got this covered. I'm like, what? Don't worry. He's like, I'll take the attack. He's like, we're good, don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm fine.
I'm like okay, perfect, right? Boom, treachery, random card, backflip. I look at him, I'm just like, you still got this, right? He's like,
right, are we still good? He's like, problems.
Problems, right?
Yeah, it's it can cause some very scary moments in the game.
Okay,
but yeah,
we need to do 8 damage to win the game. I got this, guys. I got this. You guys do this stuff. You make sure we contain this over here. I got this. Pull, spinning web kick on. Hey, you can still do your 8 damage, right? We all agreed 8 damage. We were going all in this turn with 8 damage. Guys, we got a little bit of an issue here. Yeah,
and that's it. Like great responsibility is the card I kept wanting to refer to. I kept calling for Justice. That's not what I meant, but like great responsibility is the one like to negate the treachery cards and stuff like that, or prevent the scheme getting placed and then put it on you as damage.
Yeah.
And that's like a big one you try to usually kind of save for those turns. Is like Spider-Man sitting like, I'm full health, or I have a little bit of damage, I'm ready to stop this, and then it's just like yoink.
Yeah. Or early game, right? Your Aunt May gets plucked. Oh, hells no.
Yeah.
You can't cycle your cards quick enough to get that back, right? Like, you're just like, start again.
Yeah, so it can be rough. It can be really rough.
Yeah. I mean, especially, and like I said before, think about this from the perspective of the levels that we're playing, right? Like, we're playing those, people like us, I don't mean that in a weird way. I just mean, like, to get those challenges out of the game, we're playing the harder scenarios on the expert levels, trying out these now heroic challenges, getting extra cards and stuff. So some of these times when these things are surging or you're losing those key cards, it's just detrimental. Yeah, at those levels of difficulty, man,
And also, since especially like on heroic, where it's adding extra treachery cards to your pool to then get, hit with an obligation, replacing with another treachery card, you're just getting so many negative effects hitting you one after another that it's really brutal.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
cool. Your number 2.
Let me throw my number 2 here. My number 2 is this could be a shocker, because I'm probably sure that a lot of people looked at this list and was like, this was their number 1. Inner demons. Give to the Bruce Banner player, change form, flip your identity. Then, if you are Bruce Banner, discard 2 cards from your hand. Discard this obligation. If you are Hulk, exhaust your hero, discard this obligation. Now, so that is telling you right away a couple points that we have, never seen. It just says change form. It's not giving you the option. It's telling you right away, change your form, which is flip your identity. Then whatever you were at, you get column A or column B. Now, both of those suck, and we'll get into these big discussion points in a second.
True story.
But I want to draw your attention to something. Look into the lower right corner. See those little ninja stars? There's 3 of them. They're boost icons. You can't even be like, oh, I flipped my identity in the boost phase. Yeah, awesome. 3 boost? Really, man?
Yeah, it's the only one we've seen so far that's 3 pips as opposed to 2 like most of the other obligations.
So
that's 1.
Yes.
I know where you're going with the next one.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit timeout on my number 2 and do a bridged so we can talk about this.
Yeah.
So do you want to?
Why is that?
Do you want to continue this here?
Yeah. So the reason why is because this was my number 1 pick. This is what I felt was the most impactful obligation. And of course this is crazy, right? Because this is all theory, because this is on a hero that no one's technically played yet. But just looking at, especially if you've kind of paid attention to some things that I've pointed out on why I pick cards on my list, this looks like a very brutal obligation, but it's a good counterbalance to some of the power we've seen from the Hulk hero identity that's been spoiled. This is kind of how they counterbalance. Like, Hulk's got some really sweet and disgusting things, but this obligation will humble you when it shows up. And just to, if you don't mind, I'll bring up another thing that's also different from this obligation compared to the others, is there's no way to remove this from the game. All the other obligations, you can exhaust your alter ego, remove it from the game. You don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. Not Inner Demons. Inner Demons is resolving, hitting you, and going right back into the shuffle to come up again when that deck reshuffles. You can't get rid of it. You have to deal with it every single time.
Now, so let's get in. So the Bruce Banner, right? Great point. Right, there's why it holds huge rank on mine, because of the fact that we have never seen this before. An obligation that is not removed from the game if it triggers its worst time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you draw this card, you basically get 5 fingers to the face, and you discard it. Then once that deck runs out, you give that to the best poker shuffler that you have at that table, and you bury that card, man. You do not want to see this card come up multiple times in one game. Oh my God, in the end, and to have that potential is ridiculous. Okay. Yeah. Banner, hand size 5.
So you're losing 2 of the 5 when this flips up.
Losing Brutal. 2 of the 5 cards. Now, the Hulk side of the ability is you're just basically, if you're the Hulk, you're exhausting out.
But that is important, because that means that you're not swinging with the Hulk or defending with the Hulk.
So I'm just, if you don't have a way to unexhaust your character, you're losing all your heroic momentum. on your next turn.
You're pretty much stalled out.
Yeah.
It's worse than stunned in a sense. Like you don't get to do anything like with Hulk himself.
Like we know what the Hulk is thematically. We know how thematic this game it is. The Hulk is just going to be someone Hulk smash, Hulk smash, Hulk smash, and don't Hulk no smashy.
Oh, nice. Hulk no smashy. True story.
I mean, if you're looking at your last pick, Corey, the only thing that you can take solace in is at least these cards aren't random. On the banner side of discard, you're discarding 2 cards from your hand. Hopefully, you're not giving a hard choice. But let me just kind of scroll through a look at the banner set. I mean, Hulk Smash is a 3-cost event. Immovable Object is 3-cost event. We see that he comes with the B Cop, which is 3-cost support.
Yeah, his stuff's pretty expensive.
Yeah, so I mean, he's probably not going to be the cheapest hero to play, but we don't, but you can see the most impactful cards that everyone is exciting to try out. You might have a little bit of difficulty being able to get them to the table. The only plus side there is limitless strength, but you can only spend that card while you're in hero form.
Yeah, but even if you like banner and you flip back, so that could be fine. There are ways that you can get around it, but it still sucks, and it can take you from having like your power turn where you're gonna beat down and like roll through like some minions and put a bunch of damage on the villain, to I can probably clear this minion, or I'll put a little bit of damage on the villain and just take some hits from these minions while I recover. It makes you have to reevaluate because it changes your flip. And it hits your resources.
Yeah, there is no pre-planning for this one. There is no, like both Corey and I said with the heroes that we played the most. You can, you play around your obligation. You're a little bit ready. Oh, if I have to move to, my alter ego form, I can, mitigate some of that damage. If you're not choosing to get hit, this card is hitting. This card is hitting no matter what. You're like I said, 5 fingers straight to the face, Rick James style. You are done.
The other thing that's also interesting to think about too is, especially if you play Hulk, if you end up doing Hulk in like a defense build too, flipping you to Bruce Banner and losing you cards means that you also can't use Hulk to like defend for someone else and things like that. There's just so many interesting game state decisions or things that this card can put you into, and so many plans it can ruin and mess up that it feels. This is why for me it was my number 1 most impactful.
That's Corey's number 1, right?
My number 1, but it is not your number 1.
My number 2. So what is What is also interesting here, I just want to say before we move off to my number 1, is I think it's interesting the design space of these obligations, what we're getting. Like, this will be the last one before the essential big box. Now, if you're a casual player, I would think that how you're playing the game is you bought your core, and you have everything you need. The most logical choice next is probably you're going to go for the next big box expansion for the bang for your buck and get that content. Couple new heroes, the scenarios is probably, and it's also what I'm hearing that most people are waiting for. The casual player might pick and choose a couple heroes or, the villain packs in between, but they're pretty content with just staying with the big ones. Now, if you look at my list, where I think is interesting is that we go from interchangeable here, Thor and Widow, the 4/5s, but the ramp up in seriousness of these obligations, right, are all the new heroes that we've seen recently. Widow, Thor, Strange, Hulk, right? Like, I really, really like the design space about how they're making it and twisting these obligations to making the player struggle, so to speak. I think it's I think we're moving towards a harder game to play now that the newbiness, or for those people that are Pokemoning it, gotta have it all, are being able to then pick up a hero that is going to be very challenging to play. It's not, I don't have to cater to everybody. I don't have to build my core set so that everyone has a good experience and wants to continue the game. I can pick up and put a hero out there that is just mean.
Yeah. And I think you're right. This also opens them up to where you get the balance, right? So you get like a super powered hero like Hulk, who has like some insane abilities when you look at it, but they check him by having the obligation be really nasty. And you might see this coming down the pipe where you get some of your cosmic, more of those like super powered heroes where you just wonder, like, how are they just not like insane? Well, they probably have like either like a disgusting obligation or an insane nemesis or something like that everyone like gets frightened that it might show up and hurt the table. And so that's kind of how you can balance. So it's like, yeah, you can play this like really cool character, but just know that you're playing with fire. Something really terrible could show up, and it could really make things real difficult in an instant. So
something terrible could show up, Corey.
Yeah.
Now, the number one most impactful obligation from a Jameson perspective is the obligation that when you sit down with your friends at the gaming table, when everyone comes around to have a good time, to sip whatever drink you have hidden in a non-disclosed cup, and to share stories of the week, this is the one that you see that person put that hero down. This is what I've brought to our fun game night. You look them straight in the eye and you say, if you let this obligation hit, you're not coming back next week.
Jeez, it's real serious.
This is impacting,
the Jameson
man.
game
this
table.
Is impacting. I don't mess around with this obligation. My number one is legal work, the one that I lost my bananas when you gave it an honorable mention. Oh, thank you, Corey. You gave this an honorable mention. One of the most impactful obligations in the game. What? My friend. I wish we could just splice over to our pre-show, getting things ready, when you were like, oh yeah, I'm honorable mentioning legal work, blah, and I'm like,
no, I knew as soon as I said it, and I even like, and I you're gonna go into your reasoning, but when I was going over my reasoning for my honorable mention, I was like, oh no, I feel like it should be higher, and this is why, and why should it be higher, and why is it your number one, Jameson?
I'm going red already with the frustration, just trying to talk about legal work. This obligation, if it hits, changes everything in the game. It shouldn't even just say, like the first part, give to the Jennifer Walters player. No, it should say everybody gets screwed over right here, right now. Comes out. I can't believe this is a core set card. This is ridiculous. I don't even know the next time we go back and we revisit this thread if this can even be dethroned. Michael Boggs, Caleb, what do you have in store for us for another obligation that can top this one here? Give the main scheme one acceleration token and then discard this obligation? Yeah, thank you for the discard, right? But there is no way to remove an acceleration token from the game. No way. And not even a side scheme. If there's a side scheme in play, give it an acceleration token. Hey, at least that can be cleared out and go home. If this hits too early in the game, too critical times, if this hits when I'm already playing it on stupid Michael Boggs, heroic mode, and I'm getting like hammered with treachery cards and stuff. Oh yeah, just add another acceleration token here. Ha ha ha, guys, I'm She-Hulk. What? What? God, I can't tell you how much this kills games. Like, we're just mostly just scoop it and done. Like, like you gotta be, pulling a most 180. Like you can get okay. On the plus side, you can have some ridiculous. We had this hit one time, probably near the end of say the first quarter of a game. Like if your game is say an hour long, just for rounding, and say this hit right at the 15-minute mark, right? And we had to work our asses off to overcome, right? We're talking about main scheme token, right?
Yeah. Felt good when you beat it though, right? Felt good.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. It brought a legendary game to talk about, but it was, it was sweats, man. It was sweats.
Yeah, I agree. Like the biggest thing about this card is it has a permanent impact on the duration, like the game for the duration. Putting an acceleration token affects everyone at the table. It affects the main thing you're playing in the game, which is the scheme. Like I get it. It definitely should have been higher. I completely understand why this is higher, and I think at the beginning is like I'm usually the one playing She-Hulk, and I've not in my play group, and I've not let this trigger. Seriously, 100%. It's never triggered in any of my games. It's not like a humble brag or anything. It just hasn't happened. I'm not doing any like genius play to make it where it doesn't happen. It's just always been able. So. But I mean, looking at it on paper, if it does hit and resolves, I definitely see why this would be your number one pick, and I don't fault you for choosing it.
Thank you. I appreciate the
especially if you're in a situation like where you get the scheme like you can't impact the main scheme until you get rid of the side scheme, but then you have like another acceleration scheme. So like the villains like to spit out a bunch of schemes, and you flip and you're like, cool, we have another acceleration. Or if it flips right when you're about to reshuffle the treachery deck, and it's like, cool, double acceleration. So we've lost turns effectively that we have to beat this game.
And I just think that so the way that my mind kind of did it is I, instead of building up, I actually built my list kind of downward. And what I mean by that is when we talked about how we wanted to define, or talk about obligations, right? It wasn't the worst obligation. It wasn't this. We talked about what is the most game impacting obligation if it hits. And right away, I was like, oh, legal work, just creamed right to the top. And from
okay, I got you. Keep going.
Yeah. So from that perspective, right? I was like, because the impact that this has, for the game is everybody. I'm not just hurting myself. I'm creating this. I'm changing the state of the game and the pace that everyone has to work at. So
thinking about this as someone who plays a lot of She-Hulk too, going a little further in this discussion, it does impact the whole table. But if you also think about it, it does really impact the She-Hulk player, because one, that acceleration effectively negates her alter ego ability, because she's effectively using it to just turn off the acceleration token that she put on the scheme. But also She-Hulk herself typically doesn't do really anything with threat or scheming. That's kind of not her thing. She's usually out there punching stuff in the face, smashing through minions, and putting damage on the bad guy. She's not really that great at mitigating. She's got that one card that can do it, but that's not her stick. So she causes a negative thing, which is something that she herself is not really that great at dealing with, or it just negates her eye objectability effectively on the other side. So it's really interesting kind of the impact it has on the game state, between everyone having to now react quicker to the main scheme, but also how much it hurts her more in an area that she's not really strong in dealing with to begin with.
Yeah, right. So like I said, so this was number one, and then I thought the next one, and then I slotted it, and then I said to myself, is this, get the one I'm comparing to, is this more impactful than this?
Yeah.
Okay, it can go, tuck it above, and then it knocks it down, and then knocks it down, and knocks it down. Or, or no, yes, no. Okay, this is where it goes, right? So, but, I mean, I was just right away. I knew that legal work was for me.
Yeah. So pretty much what you're saying is it's really dangerous being a Hulk player, whether you're male or female.
Yeah.
It's scary going out in the world as a Hulk player.
100%. Right. Kudos to putting something like this, as challenging as it is. Like you said, I don't think a lot of people are really being drawn to She-Hulk, so you're probably not getting the huge reps in, especially with the plethora of characters that you have to choose from now. So maybe it's been a while since you've seen this hit. I recommend, if you're having a bad day and you want others to have a bad day too, bring this to game night. Just, let it hit. But and
just not to remove it. Just let it resolve.
And experience it, right? Like, experience it. Or just be like, hey, guys, let's just start the game with an acceleration token. And then you'll be like, oh, this is what those guys one night were talking about. How
Jameson was raving about how insane this obligation was.
Now, I'm telling you, from that perspective, when acceleration tokens are on, it forces everybody to play tighter. You don't have those let me just take this turn to set up, or I'm just going to go and do this here. Like, imagine if you're playing that with acceleration and the other guy's like Thor, and he's lost his hammer and now he's spending those turns to go back. What about all those other obligations when you're talking about stuns and things like that, right? Like,
sounds like the most disorganized hero group. It's like I've got to go work at my day job, and Thor's like, "Where's my hammer?" And you're like, "Oh my god, we're supposed to save the city. What's happening?"
What's happening?
Yeah.
What if you're not even worthy to hold?
I gotta be at work. I gotta be back at work. I don't have time to fight you, Ultron. I'm gonna get fired.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, you know how much money you make as a legal lawyer? Come on, you don't have to go face the city. So there we go. That was our obligations, our 5 most impactful obligations. Yeah.
There was some good variety in the lists, and one overlap. So
I am really excited to see what they can do, and I challenged FFG to come out with more of these global, obligations that affect everything like that from a game state perspective. Push the limits. You guys got some great minds there. As long as it stays thematic. We still have to see what Spider-Woman and Hawkeye bring. Could be very interesting. The next time we look at this, as we move into the second series past the big box, where does that lead us with these characters, with these obligations? Where will they rank the next time? Only time will tell. If you have made it this far, if you've enjoyed this content, you know what? Don't even worry about liking it. Don't even worry about subscribing. We all know that nobody does that stuff anyway. Just put your list inside the comments. What are your obligations? What are the ones, are there heroes that we missed, that you feel are more impacting? Even if you don't want to include your list, just be like, tell me a story about one time this obligation hit and it just royally killed our game, and that's why you will forever hate this hero's obligation. I really like to hear
I would love just to hear like a funny story, like maybe some weird occurrence or chain of events happened that just caused like a weird snowball effect because of an obligation hitting. Those things happen in games, and it's wild.
As long as it doesn't start, and then we scooped and started again, or then
right.
and then Mike flipped the table, right? But I want to hear about what do you think, or what are your experiences with these obligations? If you don't want to just list your list, tell us, one that you feel should have been really high that we didn't include in each of our lists, and give some reasoning around it, because we like to engage in those discussion points and see that. So
absolutely.
If you do nothing else, tell us below what you feel. And it's more interesting when you disagree with us. So we all take that as constructive criticism, because this is what we love to do. We love to get on here and talk about, like we said from the top, the mechanics, the points of view, your game experience, my game experience, and just come together. Maybe there is something that I'm not seeing and I want to read about it. So please engage down below. And we'd love to hear you. We'd love to catch you in the next ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks again for watching and checking out the channel. We appreciate it.
Yep, definitely. Stay safe out there. Make sure you definitely Clorox wipe your card sets down after every play. Wash your hands, and we'll see you next time on Bad Publicity.
Yep. You guys have a good night.